Getting my voice clearly? Ready? Happy? Really? Okay. So, we'll start today's session with prayers which are from our Vedic scriptures. We'll be talking about peace, and we invoke these prayers in every talk, and it's kind of protocol for all the speakers on transcendental subject matters. So we will, you can listen if you are not aware of these prayers. We'll try to focus on the sound vibration of these prayers. So we'll start with the invocation. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
You can shift this side. Those who are sitting in corner, come this side.
So, all of you are welcome here. As we saw in the video clip that was shown, we are at a very, very special place. It's not an ordinary place. And you are also very, very special. From the point of view of the age that you are in, all of you are youth and future of tomorrow. You have best possible energy of lifetime. All of us have a certain lifetime. And within that lifetime, this time, youthfulness is probably the best possible blessing that we receive from the nature. Why? Because it is full of energy, it is full of intellectual, conscious state of mind where you can absorb and enjoy so much and so many things. You can learn so many things. As a child, our intellect is not as, developed as a youth. Our body is not as developed as a youth. As an elderly, middle-aged man, sometimes we see that we are tired, we are running around for earning money, we don't have time. And as an old man, we lose all our strength, our bodies become distressed, diseased, and we slowly achieve, a degrading state of being in this world. So this time of youthfulness, this time of energies, this time of conscious development, the stage of our intellect, the state of our mind is best possible stage of our human life, isn't it? In fact, this can be learned from all, great authorities, that how much important this junction of life is. And therefore, as I said, you are also very special. And the fact that you have come to a very special place, it makes it more special. It makes you more special. It is said in Vedic scriptures that Athato Brahma Jignasa. This is Vedic aphorism. Vedas say that this is the time the human life is meant for understanding and realizing a higher dimension of reality, a state of knowledge which is called as Brahma conception or Brahma knowledge. And this knowledge, the best time to receive it is the early years of our life. And it is said, it is glorified even in the essence of Vedic scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, that Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. One who is really in knowledge actually comes to understand God. So all of you have come to a temple. Temple is a place where center of temple is God. And as it is glorified by God Himself in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, such a person is very rare. Manushyanam sahastreshu kaschit yadati siddhaye. Out of thousands and thousands of beings, one actually tries to become perfect. Siddhi, the word Sanskrit word Siddhi means perfection. So, one amongst thousands try to become perfect in their life. Others simply, do not bother about becoming perfect. So those who are actually trying to genuinely become perfect in their life, they are celebrated as glorious and rare people. So therefore, when I say that you are special, this place is special, it also includes that speciality of your consciousness, which has attracted you to this special place. So I congratulate all of you, each of you for that. And I'll try to make this evening very special for you, so that when you go back from here, you are in more knowledge and more peace. So this topic of today, no God, no peace. If you have learned Marathi or Devanagari Lipi or Sanskrit language or grammar, there is part of grammar which is called as alankar. I don't know how many of you know this. Nowadays, convent education, we have lost so much of valuable insight and knowledge into even literature, grammar. It's called Shlesh Alankar. The word sounds same but means differently. So these words, example of a Shlesh Alankar in English. Probably a Christian missionary invented this saying. No and know. The pronunciation is same, but the meaning is drastically different. In fact, opposite. No God, no peace. No God, no peace. So, we'll talk about knowledge. What is knowledge? What is knowledge? Sometimes simple terms that we use in our day-to-day life, they are very difficult to explain. But all of us know what it means, isn't it? So one of the basic fundamental, concepts of life is knowledge. And this knowledge is, we can use synonyms like facts, which we observe or we acquire through various sense organs and through experiences and through oral reception from a teacher or from books. That is, in general, we call knowledge. And education is the path or way of getting knowledge. So how do we become knowledgeable? By getting knowledge from various sources. And when we are talking about this topic, know God, that means there is something called as subject of knowledge. What we are trying to know. For what? What is that object? Or subject and object sometimes are interchangeably used. We have an object. We as a subject want to know that knowledge about that object, and we use methodology to know correctly about the object of knowledge. So this is a little bit of introduction about knowledge. But the knowledge also has stages. We'll see how it's in stages. Knowledge doesn't come just, you can't become an expert or a very knowledgeable person unless you go through a step-by-step method of gaining knowledge. So knowledge is a very important term. We defined it because it is required in the context of our talk today. Know God. Know means what? Knowledge means what? So we define it. Any scientific talk that we give, we must define the things, isn't it? And probably you may be wondering what in temple, why they are talking about science and the definitions. But in fact, if you see, one of the great authorities of Vedic knowledge, Srila Prabhupada, he has this unique contribution. He established this movement, ISKCON. He has this unique contribution of actually seeing temple as a Vedic educational institution. So, temples traditionally, we know temples as some place where you go, you offer prayers to God, you worship God. But we have lost that part of our culture where we see temples as place of knowledge, place of Vedic education. And the authority of the books of these Vedic knowledge is so powerful, and they are translated into the modern English language by a great saint like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This knowledge, how it is scientific, is available to us. And now in temples all over the world, we are talking about most fundamental, profound questions, profound knowledge base, as we may call it today in modern era. This knowledge base which was underlying, which was in our own backyard and was not revealed to whole of the world, this knowledge is now discussed in Vedic temples, especially ISKCON. So this is a little bit of introduction about knowledge. Then there is something called as peace. usually see a temple as the place where we become peaceful. Or as it is shown here, a very picturesque, beautiful place where nature is showing its glory. And we go after, a weekend, for enjoying a weekend outside somewhere. There is a waterfall, there is some, flowing river, and there is greenery, there are a lot of trees. And we expect that, away from daily routine, away from, such a burdensome existence of study for many of you, or for official duties for many of us, or for, not for you, because all of you are unmarried, I suppose. So, those burdens are going to come if you are going to get married. So, families also seek peace. And this peace is something, freedom from all disturbances of day-to-day life. And we hanker for that peace. In fact, we go deep enough into our expectations of life. Peace is one of the basic expectations of our life. We hanker for peace. Is there anyone who actually does not like peace here? Who wants to become disturbed? Please raise hands. No one wants actually to become disturbed. Nobody wants to become stressed, full of anxiety. And peace is kind of, tranquility or calmness that we expect from our life. And it's basic necessity of anybody to live happily. Basic requisite of happiness. Just like happiness, is basic hankering for all of us to achieve by our endeavors. All our endeavors are meant for achieving peace and happiness ultimately. So, how this peace and knowledge are related? Are they related? To become peaceful, do we need knowledge? Our minds may be going through some practical example where, a person who doesn't have knowledge is peaceful. But actually, a person who is peaceful may be more knowledgeable than us. Isn't it? So, this is a complicated relationship. A practical example could be, suppose, how many of you have come to Pune from outside? Many of you. So, any of you from a very small village? Okay. So, can you tell me about your experience of thinking about coming to Pune? You felt some kind of anxiety? Yes? Everyone? If you are supposed to visit a place which is very remote and you don't know much about it, you have never been to that place, how do you feel? You feel a little bit of stress. Why? Because you don't know that place. You don't have knowledge about that place. Isn't it? And then you go there and you don't know where to go, what facilities are available there. And if you have a friend there, he is knowledgeable at that place, he becomes immediate relief for you because he gives you knowledge. He tells you get down here, do not mess up with auto rickshaw walas. And then go to this bus stand or go to this Pune station, pay 5 rupees, get to Akurdi. And this is the timetable on WhatsApp he shares with you. And that knowledge makes you, I am relieved. Or you go to a place like Mumbai and you know that, terrible population. And you hear so many terrible stories. One of our friends, he went to Mumbai and he was working there in a company. And then suddenly one day while he was traveling in local train, nowadays there are mobile chor. Mobile chori karne ke liye, they stand in a very strategic position where just when the local starts to move, they just grab your mobile. People nowadays, everybody is on mobile, whether they are on local train or walking or talking or speaking. All the times mobile is there, and these thieves, they just catch hold of your mobile when the train just starts to move. And this friend, he was trapped into such a situation. This thief just caught hold of his new Apple iPhone, which was very costly, very dear to his heart, and he was really disturbed. He jumped out of that moving train and he chased that thief. That thief jumped over on track and ran away. And this fellow also jumped on the track and was crushed by a train. Horrible death, tragedies. And it was one of the shocking things. He was youngster, newly married, and his family was devastated. So when you hear of such a thing and think about going first time to Mumbai, you have that knowledge, and that knowledge which will make you safe. So you have knowledge which will disturb you, and you have knowledge by which you can counteract that disturbance. So knowledge is kind of connection with peace, isn't it? Knowledge, when you have knowledge, when you are now in Pune, is it very anxious for you to roam around in Pune? No. It's not as much as an anxiety as it was when you started first time. Yes? So knowledge of Pune now has given him some kind of peace of mind. Now peacefully he is going around. I will narrate my going to Bihar. First time when I went to Bihar, there I heard so much about Bihar. People are really rowdy. And I actually I stayed there 3 days near Patna, Hajipur. Don't get offended if anybody is a Bihari. This is in a very lighter moment. But when I stayed there, I saw people, they are struggling with electricity. And for 3 days, hardly 2 hours, 4 hours, I could experience, electricity. It was very hot. And how people were getting electricity in their house, there was no, authority for that. People simply took, there is a cable, you put some, hook it and get it into your home. There is no meter, nothing. And when I was, first time when I boarded a bus there, people were talking with each other. I felt that they are quarreling with each other. And I was just thinking, why are they quarreling so much? All of them. What happened? And then I got out of that bus, then I got into another bus, same story continued. And I felt, why are they quarreling so much? But when I learned that this is the way they speak, then I became peaceful. There is no danger. Actually, they speak like this only. It's a joke. It's nothing to be serious about it. It's not an offense towards any Bihari person or the tone with which they speak. It's an enjoyment for them. And when you become knowledgeable and you interact with them in same spirit, you probably become more peaceful and happy amongst them. So this way, knowledge and peace are quite connected concepts. And therefore, if we want to seek peace, we also have to seek knowledge. And it's a path. As I said, it's an evolution. We go from first standard to second standard, third standard, fourth standard in our education system. It's an evolution of knowledge, evolution of mathematical knowledge. In first standard, you probably just start to learn how to read. It is 1, it is 2, it is 3. Then in probably second standard, you learn 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Then you learn, 20 plus 40 is equal to 60. And you go on evolution. You go on evolving in your knowledge. So path of knowledge and path of peace is a path of evolution. How you evolve your knowledge. So this evolution, especially the knowledge, when we speak about knowledge, we speak about science. And when we speak about science, we speak of modern science. This modern science is the knowledge. The means capital THE, all THE, all capital. The knowledge means science. And science means modern science, which is based on direct perception of things around us. And the calculations based on those perceptions. And the proof system along with that perception. So, science is the power of human observation. And that we see today with the science that is evolving so much by collective efforts, by collective needs of society. We are seeing continuous evolution of the modern science. As far as our understanding of history goes, of modern science, as far as our perception goes, as far as our authority of those scientific principles goes, those books of knowledge and that body of knowledge, as far as we know, it is an evolution growing very fast with our combined efforts and needs in society. And ultimately, this science and knowledge are so interconnected that you have a hypothesis, you believe as a scientist that this may be true, and you put it as a hypothesis. And then when you observe the things around you, we put a kind of proof to that hypothesis. We adjust that hypothesis. We go on observing and we refine that hypothesis. And then we put it in terms of a formula when we are confident enough about its working. And that becomes, science. That knowledge, that evolution becomes science. And this science is driving force for authentic knowledge. The knowledge on which we can trust, we can believe that knowledge. And the trustworthiness of that knowledge is very, very, very essential, very important. And now, actually, this age of information technology and cyber world, we have a lot of data. Every one of us has become a center of data creation. We have our mobile phones and we are contributing to this data. We are contributing audio, video, multimedia. We are contributing statistics. We are taking part in surveys. And there is a way of gaining that data, collecting that data from so many sources, from any part of the world. And it is becoming a huge information. It is leading to a huge source of knowledge. It is leading to the evolution of knowledge. And communication and collaboration today has taken this to a new level. Communication in terms of internet, collaboration in terms of research affiliations, and memoranda of understanding of scientific community with academical community and experts from all over the world. You can have a collaboration with a university from outside, a professor from USA, a student from India, and a scientist from some government or organization. And all of them are collaborating. And you see, scientific journals, scientific, patents, and you see so many, products coming out of it. Powerful applications. It's evolving so fast. In fact, we are one of those generations who have seen a huge, evolution in modern science and knowledge. Isn't it? Probably before 50 years or 100 years, as far as our historical evidences which come to us, there was no such evolution of knowledge. Now I am speaking to you. I don't have to stress too much and you are able to hear my voice so clearly because of these fascinating equipments, which are powerful applications of the collaborative effort of human society, coordination. And so many people are producing them on ground. So much of industry is there. We are busy day and night in the pursuit of knowledge, its powerful application, and trying to solve, all in all, ultimately, the problems of life. Why this knowledge? Ultimately, to become peaceful and happy. Isn't it? When we think within about our requirements from life, we think of what? When we want to become happy, we think of some object which will make us happy. And we think of how to receive, how to get that knowledge, how to get that object. And we try to seek how many objects are there available for me to become happy and peaceful. We chase those objects. We try to make those objects available. We try to market those objects as marketing person. We try to sell those objects as salesperson. We try to invent those objects as scientist. We try to use those objects for our happiness and peace as a consumer. And this is how our society is evolving today. But in this evolution of modern science and availability of so many powerful systems and applications, and we are part of all of that, and we are experiencing that evolution, we actually should also look back at our original purpose of achieving or trying to obtain or making an endeavor to obtain those things. Are we really evolving in our objective or goal or a mission of becoming happy and peaceful? That is our check. Isn't it? A scientific mind should look into reality of the result which is observed after a scientific experiment. Then we call it as a scientific community. So, when we start with our hankering of knowledge based on our conception of achieving peace and happiness, and we seek out those objects, seek out that knowledge and object, how to use that object, how to fulfill our demands, we should check back. Why did we actually hanker for that object? Why did we search for the knowledge of that object? And the reason is, what is the reason? Why did we search? To achieve peace, to achieve happiness, to enjoy. Whatever we do is for enjoyment, for happiness of ourselves as well as others. So, a scientific mind really checks whether I am getting that happiness or not, whether I am peaceful or not. So this leads to a discussion of this kind. Human evolution or devolution. I was giving, I think maybe some of you may be present in that seminar, Engineering a Better World. And in that, I put up certain question to the audience, all of them first year engineering students. And I asked them a question. As human society, we are more peaceful today or not? Are we more disturbed as compared to our ancestors? Our ancestors, our fathers, mothers, or grandfather, grandmothers, were they more happy and peaceful than us? And shockingly, the answer was, yes, we are more disturbed. We are full of stress and anxiety, depression. And they were truthfully coming out. And the number of hands which were raised were probably more than 80-85%. They actually thought that we are not peaceful as compared to our ancestors, our fathers, grandfathers, and grandfathers. As far as we have seen them, we have experienced their state of being. their family life, we clearly see that they were more peaceful and happy. And of course, there may be some exceptions. It depends upon what kind of environment, family setup, what kind of standard of living you are experiencing in your life. But in general, as a society, the question is, are we more peaceful, more happy, more divine, more in a mode of helping each other to solve problems? Are we generous enough today to help each other? Are our neighbors coming to give us a friendly handshake? Are our neighbors and friends giving us timely help more than in previous ages? That is the question. And what is your opinion about it? What is your experience about it? What your heart says? Yes, anyone? You feel your childhood pastime was better than your youthful time? As a child, it was better than being a youth. Do you feel like that? Do you sometimes feel a dog on road is more happy than me? A dog is jumping, playing happily and running around and enjoying more than me. I am just struggling with this complication. So much of study I have to do, so many exams I have to pass, isn't it? And therefore, as a youth, we are facing these fundamental questions of life, this duality of, of on one side there is this modern science, modern society, America as a developed country, I want to go there, I want to enjoy. And there is a bit of struggle internally. There is a bit of hard time that youth are going through. And then on the other side, there is religion, people who are talking about peace, happiness, prayers, God. And there appears to be a conflict between science and religion, science and spirituality. And many youth are crushed under the burden of modern science, not to accept any path which is kind of religious or spiritual. And we tend to go away in the name of science from temples. Isn't it? Can we talk freely about religion or God in our colleges, in our offices today? We feel a kind of backwardness imposed by society on us, by political setup on us. And therefore, this natural need of being peaceful and being happy, somewhere within the heart, we have a hankering to take shelter of some higher power. Secretly, many of us are trying to pray to God. Oh God, I am struggling. I want to get out of this struggle. I want to get successful. Whatever is the definition of our success in our life, we tend to approach within our innocent, conscious, spiritual being a constant hankering of taking shelter and getting actual shelter. As a child, we take shelter of our mother, our father. But as we grow as a youth, we tend to miss out on that shelter. We struggle to find such a shelter. And that is where our duality starts to crush us. Sometimes it ends up in such a frustration. It is called quarterly crisis, quarterly life crisis. At the age of 25, we suppose that we live as a human being 100 years. And out of that, we are at a junction of age 25. Many of you probably average 25. So their quarter life crisis strikes you. And many of us are crushed under that crisis. So, on a personal level, our experience in human evolution at this junction of life gets us into this duality of modern science and its promises of peace and happiness and actual experience. And a constant hatred, especially in India. We saw internationally ISKCON, everywhere people are dancing on streets. In Jagannath Rath Yatra in America, Americans are playing instruments, singing Hare Krishna, dancing freely with joy and happiness. In Japan, in China, even in Pakistan, we saw a video few days back. People are chanting and dancing on roads. Everywhere there appears to be acceptance of spiritual principles, religious principles, in all communities, all nations, except probably India, which is supposed to be traditionally mother of all spirituality. And it's a guiding place for the world. World looks towards India. One of my friends narrated that he was in some other country, and there a person came to him and asked a question from Bhagavad Gita, a foreigner. And this fellow never read Bhagavad Gita. And this foreigner was utterly shocked. Bhagavad Gita, you never touched it? It is the book which is sold. Guinness Book of World Records says that it is the most number of copies of a book sold throughout the world is Bhagavad Gita. Most number of languages in which a book is translated is Bhagavad Gita. Most number of philosophers, scientists, poets, artists, all walks of life, so many people throughout the history of human evolution have given so much of importance to Bhagavad Gita. All religions accept the authority of Bhagavad Gita. All religious leaders who are genuinely bona fide, they know the power of Bhagavad Gita. Great scientists like Einstein, they know greatness of Bhagavad Gita. And you, from India, you don't know. Such a shame. Might not have said it like that, but it's a shame. When we talk about Bhagavad Gita, when our devotees, they go on streets, distribute Bhagavad Gita, people feel shameful to touch Bhagavad Gita. Such a plight. We have lost that broad-mindedness towards spirituality in India. And there are many reasons for this. And therefore, this duality is crushing our power. The important, useful resource of humankind, Indian youth, who are empowering the whole world with their intellect, with their research capability, with their skills of software development. All of us know that we are actually everywhere. Probably except in spiritual knowledge. So that duality is crushing so many pious youth today. That duality is kind of hindrance to take up a spiritual path of knowledge in our own life. So there we should be equipped with all knowledge which exposes the claims of modern science. So there is a book called as End of Modern Civilization. It's a very nice book. Dr. Sahdev, he has written this. And he has exposed this, the modern science and its fake promises. Actually, I am giving a public address, if you have noticed. It is being recorded on live video. And I am scientist of defense of India. And I am speaking against modern science. Because we'll go to those slides later on. This is something which I wanted to stress. There is something called as real science. There is something called as knowledge which is marketed as science but is not science. and there is something called as transcendental science. So as a scientist, I am not speaking about science which is real science. I am speaking about something which is presented as science but is fake. I am talking about some claims like we are able to create test tube babies with the help of modern science, and this is the proof that there is no God. I am talking about that modern science which says that we are working on a system called as God particle. After achieving the knowledge of that God particle, we will be sure that God is nothing but a particle and an imagination of emotional hankering of sentimental people. I am speaking against such claims of so-called modern science and not actually the real science. So there has to be a distinction between something called as real science and fake propaganda which goes in the name of modern science. I hope you are getting my point. And now we are struggling with that. We keep on hearing something like WhatsApp being used to lynch mob lynching. People are lynching people, innocent persons many times. There is a fake news in media, there is a fake news in WhatsApp, and people just believe it and just एक को पकड़ के धो डालते हैं, मार डालते हैं कभी कभी. That is fake. And that is not required. That is not scientific use of application like WhatsApp. That is not contribution of real science. It's actually half thing, or it's actually only 5% thing. If we are utilizing that modern science applications in practical life to destroy people, to lynch a person, to kill somebody, to spread fake news, fake statistics, fake things, then we are actually creating more trouble. And in the name of modern science, we are playing havoc. And more than anywhere else, this kind of havoc is around us in India. People are probably more responsible in other parts of the world than in India. So it has become a very necessary thing to discuss what is real knowledge, what is real science, what is transcendental science, behavioral science, moral science. These actually are becoming very important in our society, especially in youth. And there has to be someone who is bridging the gap between modern science and transcendental science. We Indians have lost faith in transcendental science because of some brainwashing done throughout our academic systems, given by British, given by Mughal emperors. They destroyed it systematically and completely. And that is how we land up in no man's land today as an Indian. So some of the examples of modern, failures are like this. This is Tim Bergling, a Swedish musician, DJ. He committed suicide at the age of 29. Probably for us, Bollywood heroes are real heroes. In America, these musicians and these artists, people are becoming mad after them. And they go to their concerts and they enjoy so much. They take drugs and then they go to such music concerts and they enjoy superficially, unlimitedly. They sometimes go to such drug ecstasy that they faint in ecstasy. But when they come back, they come back in heavy headache, and they feel that 2-3 hours of their highness on drugs has come to an end and they struggle for a week to get proper sound sleep. They are completely distorted. And many youth there actually chase dreams of becoming a Tim Bergling. But what Tim Bergling does is struggles with health problems, suffers severe stress, poor mental health, ending up in a disastrous suicide at a very young age. Then there are businessmen like this Miguel Blesa, Spanish banker, suicide by gunshot, misuses his company credits during his long tenure as chairman of Caja Madrid, and then ultimately can't handle the stress and commits suicide. So many of us are dreaming of becoming somebody like them at a youth, at a point of age like yours. We want to become doctors, we want to become engineers. But there are plenty of such examples. Due to time, we won't be able to study them thoroughly. Few examples I am putting here. Or sometimes the life takes us to a disastrous end, a disastrous tragedy. Something like what, you know this great famous personality, Michael Schumacher? You know, many of my friends just, spent their time watching his, victories. He is Formula One Grand Prix winner. Most number of times he has won. One of the great sportsmen had an accident. And these vehicles, they are the topmost manifestation of modern science and its application. They are costliest, most wonderful machines which are probably possible with modern science today. And they are driving in those vehicles at tremendous speeds. And the support team that they have is trained thoroughly in the science of automobile engineering. And the machines are so designed that within a flash of a moment, you can change the tires, you can repair them, you can replace parts of them. And you have doctors who are super specialists. In case of a terrible accident, they can replace all of your limbs within no time. Whole personality can be changed. All limbs of human body can be changed, transplanted. That is where modern science has gone. And with that, this person could not be, same. He's struggling with his life, such a tragedy. What state of consciousness he might be going through. And then, Srila Prabhupada used to give this example. John F. Kennedy, president, was assassinated. He was, one of the famous world over personalities, leader of the world. Mahatma Gandhi was one such leader, and he was finished. He loved his country so much, and then ultimately he was killed. So like that, there is a bigger question. What is life? What is death? What happens after life? What happens within life and what happens after death? Why there are so many tragedies? Why there are hindrances in peace and happiness? Why people commit suicide? Those are on personal level. These questions are important. Then there are some questions which modern science need to answer to the society. American Heart Association president suffers heart attack at 52. This was one of the news few days or few weeks back. And this person, John Warner, was a cardiologist, president of American Heart Association, suffered a heart attack in the middle of a health conference at the age of 52. He was speaking like me and talking about health, talking about heart and what kind of prescriptions he followed, his own prescriptions, recommendations, many of which can actually worsen or cause heart disease. And What were their recommendations? Scientific recommendations. Ample grain, which consists of this canola, corn, soybean, sunflower oil, and all of them are leading to cardiovascular diseases or problems. So, these most knowledgeable people who are at a very responsible position to guide society towards health, peace, happiness, disease-free life, they are collapsing in front of all while talking about how to cure and prevent heart diseases. Is modern science really reliable? Or this man was just marketing the falsehood under the name of modern science? Are you scientific as a society? When you reject spirituality and Bhagavad Gita, you say that we are modern, educated, scientifically minded society. You speak about science so boldly. You say that show me God. Unless you show me God, I won't believe in God. Because I am a scientifically minded person. What about analyzing these events of modern science? These people of modern science? So this question is important for us, Indians, youth, really speaking. Because we are manipulated. If you go deep enough, we see that we are manipulated. And as a defense person, I may say that, there are some statistics I would like to read. Warfare. I don't know how many of you heard about nuclear, biological, chemical warfare. These are the ways by which other countries actually manipulate us, actually defeat us, not many times in a battle, but through economy, through specific use of destructive ways of pushing their things in a country like India in the name of modern science. There is also one book on this, a plan of making India into a desert by 2050. I don't know how many of you even know that such a book exists. It exposes this kind of warfare, nuclear warfare, biological warfare, chemical warfare, going in the name of modern science. They just catch hold of some politicians of India, they brainwash them with marketed science, so-called marketed science. They push their so-called modern scientific, inventions in India, like genetic engineering, genetically modified food. There are statistics as to how many banned genetic modified products without any sanction of government are being sold in India. So these kind of weapons they are using. It is said 20th century is the most bloodiest century of this, known history. It says that industrialization of wars and violence is killing more than 350 million people directly and indirectly in the world. And this is more than, more than any kind of ways of human death, which is artificially caused. There is an arsenal with the world, with modern science and nuclear weapons, that there are around 50,000 nuclear weapons now around us. And a nuclear weapon can destroy this earth many, many times. We have so much of, missile power, nuclear power with us. And it's just waiting to be falling on top of our heads. So, is this peaceful contribution of nuclear science? No, certainly not. So, I have some videos, but due to lack of time, and our focus has to be on spirituality. Up to now, we have been discussing about, because there is so much of brainwash already done for us through education system. We have to remove it, first of all. Unnecessary faith on fake knowledge presented as so-called science. So this is one of the great instructive stories narrated by, again, Srila Prabhupada. There was a boatman, and this boatman, a person like us, who went to his hometown, and he went through aeroplane and then landed up at a place from where he has to cross a river, and its easiest way is to go by a boat. So this scholarly person, he boards this boat, and then during his journey he is getting bored. There is no Reliance Jio connection with him, and he's not getting his bandwidth there, and he doesn't know anything, how to utilize his life other than WhatsApp and Facebook. And this scholarly man opens up a discussion with this poor boatman. He asks him, "Do you know physics?" This boatman says, "What is that? I am hearing this for first time." He says, "You don't know physics? 25% of your life is waste. You have not gained anything in your life." He asks, "Do you know chemistry?" He says, "Ye kya hota hai? 50% of your life is waste." Then he asks, "Do you know mathematics?" Poor fellow, again, in kind of, distress, he says, "No, sir, I don't know mathematics." So 80% of your life is waste. Suddenly the boat starts shaking. There is a disturbance in the river, and there is a storm that is coming, and this boat is going to be, it is sinking. And this boatman asks this scholar, "Do you know swimming?" He says, "No, 100% of your life is waste." So the knowledge which is actually important for life has to be given more focus. Otherwise, it's same story, what that physics, chemistry and mathematics would do with that person. Of course, we are not saying that modern science has to be altogether rejected. That is not the message. It is useful. How we are, conducting this program, we are getting help of modern science. This laptop, this projector, this mic and this speakers and this recording and the invitations which went to you through mobiles and SMS. We are utilizing that technology. But that utilization has to contribute in practice, to achieve peace and happiness in life. And if we do not check that, then we are struggling. So therefore, we have to distinguish. And the knowledge, peace and God, as it is said, a bit of science distances one from God, but much science nears one to Him. The more I study nature, the more I stand amazed at the work of the Creator. This is Louis Pasteur, one of the great, philosophers and scientists of his time. He says that this duality that we are facing, he is opening up a very good advice, that this science, although appears to be distancing ourselves from the conception of God, actually it would take us near Him. If we are truthful and we really are, concerned. This is one more. Anything under God's control is never out of control. And this world which seems to be out of control, if we see today, India is, according to recent observations of World Health Organization, has world's 14 most polluted cities amongst top 15 polluted cities in the world. Have you heard it? A list, merit list, like we have in our colleges, merit list. Similarly, there is a list of cities which are most polluted. There you are breathing an air which is causing you slow death. That 14 out of 15 cities are from India. And there I can go, unlimited number of statistics we can share. about how we are polluting air, how we are polluting earth. The extinction of species in last century is, I would like to read it out. This extinction of species is so fast today that this statistics, I'm just trying to search it out. There is a number which I am interested in. Yes, 1,000 times faster than previous centuries. It's 1,000 times. Species, we are playing an absolute havoc with nature. A whole list of air, earth, ether, water, all these, fire, global warming, we are playing havoc with our own existence. And as it is put up by a Nobel laureate, a great environmentalist, Dr. E.O. Wilson, he says that probably, he is an expert in environment studies. What he says is, in environment, every species has some role to play. And as we know, each species depends on another species for life, and there is a cycle of life going through. And he says an insignificant species, if it becomes extinct, the whole cycle of nature collapses within certain amount of time. And there is only one exception to this, and which is that? Human species. And he says that if humans are extinct, probably this world will go on indefinitely forever, without any problem. So we are proud of being a human being, we are being proud of reaching moon, but actually we are playing havoc with this principle. We are neglecting this most profound, most important principle. We are neglecting the control of God, laws of nature, laws of God. We are neglecting knowledge about it. And therefore, one of the famous morning talks which Srila Prabhupada gave, we will like to hear his transcendental message to us. We'll play it.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, recorded on November 2nd, 1975, in Bombay, India.
First instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Dehinasmin yatha vehe kaumarajo tatha deyantaram. Unless one understands that there is change of body, and I am spirit soul within this body, he remains a cat and dog. Dehatma buddhi, jasatma buddhi, punabhiriti bhat. Sayava gokha. So we are keeping this civilization animalistic. How there can be peace? You cannot make several dogs, bringing them together as nation, and they will be peaceful. It is not possible. That you, all dogs come here and feel nationally and be peaceful. Will the dogs will be able to do that? Because they are a dog, it is not possible.
They fight among themselves for nothing.
Yes. So they are keeping them cats and dogs by education, culture, and they want to be happy. How do you say? First of all, let them come to the standard of human being. Then there is question of peace and happiness. They are kept as cats and dogs. And how there can be peace? We cannot make any peace in the dog society. That is not possible. So that consciousness can come only when one is spiritually educated. If he is simply engaged for satisfying the senses, material, then he remains a cat and dog. He cannot express anything.
I think the greatest damage done to this civilization of Aryans of India was by Macaulay, who introduced the British system of education.
But why you accepted that?
For the sake of...
Why you accepted?
For the sake of...
Then why don't you accept? You should have refused.
Yes. So, here, if you have not able to grasp what he said, it's a very old recording. It's a morning walk talk in Mumbai. What Srila Prabhupada was saying was, how can you expect dogs together, peaceful? Can a society of dogs and cats be peaceful? If you see, you come, there is a way, ये शिंदे बस्ती है ना, वहाँ से आप अगर आओगे रात को 12-1 बजे, तो dogs will make your life miserable. And there, if a dog from this place goes to that place, whether it is night or day, they will make that dog's life full of misery. They will bark on that dog. Why did you come to this place? It is our area. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada here is saying that how can you expect a society of dogs to be peaceful? It's very powerful in his point. He's saying, unless you have knowledge of how to become a human being, how can you make society happy? If they are living a life which is as conscious as dogs, they are only concerned about eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Dogs are concerned about their area. This is my area. This is your area. So Srila Prabhupada says that how United Nations can stay united. We saw in that video of ISKCON, it's actually United Nations. People are happily, enjoying with each other. They are peaceful. They are not fighting with each other. They are singing glories of God. But United Nations, Srila Prabhupada used to say, every year there is new flag adding to United Nations. So that means they are getting disunited. Because the nations are getting divided instead of getting united. Why it is happening? Srila Prabhupada says that they are United Nations of dogs. And they can't be happy unless they accept the knowledge by which you can become actually a human being. And that is spiritual knowledge, as Srila Prabhupada brought it out. And further, this person who was speaking, probably Mr. Patel, who was always in these morning walk conversations and arguing with Srila Prabhupada, he put up a point that Indians are more confused because of this Macaulay, who gave this British education system. So Srila Prabhupada asks, why have you accepted Macaulay? Then Mr. Patel says that our ancestors accepted them. So Srila Prabhupada says, then why are you accepting them again? Why are you repeating some same mistake that they did? So what Srila Prabhupada wants to say is, get this spiritual education first. And the knowledge which is in the name of modern science, creating such havoc and making people into corporate slaves. In fact, there was a statistic that 70% of people who were tested medically for their taste buds, tongue, can they distinguish between two tastes? ये मीठा है, ये अच्छा वाला मीठा है, ये मीडियम वाला मीठा है, ये बहुत अच्छा, इसमें फर्क है दोनों मीठा में. So like that they tasted. And they saw that 70% of population today cannot distinguish between many tastes. They have lost that capability to even distinguish between different tastes. Because They don't have time to eat properly. They have become corporate slaves. So if this modern education is a way of making us into a corporate slaves, we surely should look into higher principle. And for that, who will take an initiative? We. As Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he has brought it out. God helps only people who work hard. So when we are as a youth actually facing this world, we are part of this world, then we should take initiatives and little bit of hard work to actually study and become a human being. Actually associate with those universities like this, people who are expert. We need to know this transcendental science which is God-centered. We have transcendental books, we have divine teachers, we have bona fide path, we have theory to practical, that progression, we have methods of proper practice, we have perceivable realizations, we have effects on self and ultimate result. And this is all available to us. So, transcendental books like Bhagavad Gita give us a way, a peace formula. There are many peace formulae available in Bhagavad Gita. But when we accept Bhagavad Gita, it has to be accepted as a scientific truth. Bhagavad Gita says, Raja Vidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshavāgamamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. So, what it says is, it's a king of all knowledge. It's secret of all secrets. Pavitram, it is pure. It's not like those cheating people. Uttamam, it is beyond darkness of illusion which is created due to our own senses. And most importantly, Pratyakshavāgamamam means perceivable. Perceivable realization. We can perceive the truth by the consciousness that we are awarded with. So, when we can perceive truth, what is that? Science. So, Bhagavad Gita is a book of transcendental science. And what is the peace formula that is given by Bhagavad Gita? There are many verses. Two of them I will say here. One verse is, Apuryamanam achalam pratishtham samudramapah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamaha yam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kamakami. So here we are kind of explaining what Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is saying. What he is saying that you have to work hard to get that knowledge, to get that support from God. And we don't work hard for simply the acquisitions for which the world is running for. Example is given is of a ocean. Within the ocean, many rivers are flowing. Similarly, within the heart of a human, so many desires are constantly entering. But one who doesn't go behind each and every desire to fulfill those material desires and stays calm and develops his inner consciousness, just not running. You could have gone to a movie today. You could have gone with your girlfriends. How many of you have? That's a prestige question today. This our HOD was discussing, our old college. He was saying today prestigious means a student has a girlfriend. And prestigious means a student smokes cigarette and he drinks. And 10 people, 10 students come around an innocent boy and they ask, do you drink? He says, no. The second one, you don't drink? Third one, how can you be like that? And then the innocent boy is destroyed. So, this transcendental knowledge or transcendental science takes a little bit of restraint from all these dogs barking at us. When we see them, internally we see them as people with zero knowledge. They don't have, any consciousness of what is good and what is bad. In fact, we should roar like a lion in between of those 10 dogs. We should say, दारू पीता है? हे देखा मैंने एक आदमी वहां पे गिरा पड़ा था गटर में दारू पी के. तुम्हारी लायकी वही है. Roar like a lion if you are supporting divine path, and those 10 dogs will flee away. So that takes a little bit of knowledge, that takes a little bit of courage, that takes a little bit of devotion to God, that takes a little bit of conviction, and that is where we evolve. We want to evolve. And there, when we actually are situated in knowledge, we will always be peaceful despite of 10 dogs in society barking at us. And so many difficult situations ending up, they are coming on us. So, one more very wonderful verse with which I will close this session is, a verse which explains 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This verse comes, it explains the state of peaceful existence of a person who is situated in God consciousness. The verse says, Yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Shri Radha Govinda Dev Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Radha Vijay Govinda Bhagavan ki jai. Niruddham yoga sevaya, yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Sukham atyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Sukham atyantikam, such a person who is situated in transcendental knowledge, he is most happy. Veti yatra na chaivayam, sthitah chalati tatvatah, yam labdhva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah. After attaining that consciousness, he doesn't think that there is something higher to be achieved. Yasmin sthito na dukkhe na gurunapi vichalyate. When he is situated in that consciousness, biggest unhappy tragedy, even if it happens in his life, he is not moved from his peaceful disposition. Tam vidya, that knowledge, that is called spiritual knowledge. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. It permanently detaches one from dukkha, means unhappiness. Samyoga viyogam. Dukkha samyoga. We are in touch with unhappiness. Viyoga means forever leaving that state of consciousness. That is called transcendental knowledge, God-centered knowledge. So therefore, bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surudam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim mricchati. Such a state of consciousness can be achieved by keeping God in center and actually taking up a life which is centered around God consciousness. And that will make one very peaceful. That knowledge will make one very peaceful and happy. So thank you very much for giving me the audience. And I don't know how much time we have for questions. Whether we have time? 1 or 2 questions? Yes? So if you have any question, yes. Mike?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
My question is that you heard our yesterday news. The 31 people who is in the bus will fall in a valley.
34, 33.
31. In that 30, okay.
No, I read that news,
Oh,
it says
okay.
34 and 33 were killed.
Okay.
Okay.
So my question is that they have their families.
Okay.
And what about their peace and how they can believe in God? So I would like to know what is your opinion on that.
Okay. It's actually an unfortunate incident. It's a tragic end of life. And these people actually wanted to enjoy a trip. And the destiny was such that they met with such a severe accident. The bus was broken into 3 pieces. And the photograph that I saw showed that the valley was full of blood and it was such a horrible death. One person somehow or the other was thrown out of the door of the bus and he was saved. So the point here is, that's why we need knowledge to see what is happening in this world, how it is happening, why these tragedies happen, why people want to enjoy and they end up in sufferings which are so horrible. What is the nature of this world? Where can we get this information? Where can we find why this happens? What is the theory behind it? What is the logic behind it? If God is there, how can He make this thing happen? Is He not taking care of all human beings, all animals, all species of life? Is He absent? Is there any control of God in the happenings? Or sometimes you see even a child dies in childhood without even taking part in this world. Apparently he is sinless, but why his father and mother have to go through such a tremendous reaction? These questions are there, and these questions are not so shallow. They are very deep questions, and the answer to these questions also is not shallow. There are profound answers, and just like we can't expect a first standard boy to learn integration immediately, we can't expect a new practitioner of spirituality to realize the truth and knowledge immediately. So that's why there is an evolution of knowledge. And Bhagavad Gita in that respect is bringing out the reality of this material world. It says that this place is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's absolute truth. Dukkhalaya means it's a place of miseries. And ashashvat means we don't know what misery will fall upon somebody at what time. And we saw examples, and this is one of the examples. Ashashvat. Enjoy करने गए, भगवान ने uninstall ही कर दिया इस जगत से. Probably all of them were singing, dancing and enjoying. And it says, the news says that they were ecstatically enjoying, and suddenly the driver just wanted to take part in their enjoyment by having just a glimpse, and that glimpse ended up in final glimpse of this world for those people. So if it is stamped as dukkhalaya, can you make it a happy place? That's the question. And if it is ashashvat, how can we ask again that why this happens? It happens because it is ashashvat. And that's why we seek a place where this doesn't happen. And there is a place where it doesn't happen. And there is a way to attain that place. It's called Shashvat Dham. This is Ashashvat Dham. It's called Vaikuntha Dham. Vaikuntha means Vigata Kuntha. There is no misery like this there. And there is a way to go there. Today morning, I was speaking about going to spiritual world. And I was saying that if you want to go from this planet to some other planet, or one nation to another nation, we need a vehicle to go. And there is a science of how to go, how to build that vehicle, how to build an aeroplane which takes you from India to America. It's a science. Similarly, how to go to such a place where there are no miseries is a great science. It's a great knowledge. And that is what is very important for us. And this is where